Okay, so now whether or not global warming is man-made, or there is something that is relevant to humans and their involvement in it, is irrelevant, because the bill that cap and trade that he has proposed, or that has been proposed and that he advocates for, doesn't actually solve the problem of reducing carbon emissions as he claims it does. For example, in a book, the closest comparison that we have to a successful cap and trade program is the European Union's environmental trading system, which is in effect since about 2005, around 2005. And now, when we look at their system compared to the proposal that we have right now, it is very similar. And the reason, okay, so no reductions actually take place. That's part of my claim in response to his, which is also why global warming it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant whether it is human-made or not. I have a quote from a book from analysts of the plan of the European system and the American system, and partially it can be applied. They say the EU figures show an overall reduction in emissions of around 50 million tons, but these figures were inflated by over 80 million tons of CDM credits. Those are the trading credits. In other words, more than the entire claimed reduction was covered by carbon offsets generated by projects outside of Europe. Now, what they're talking about is the offset system that would be implemented with the cap and trade. How the companies that are polluting would be able to buy stocks or investments in other countries that are supposed to have cleaner, greener projects. And when they create these offsets, they're supposed to take down the requirement of the carbon emissions. Now, basically these offsets, in essence, they're just polluting the environment more, because these companies are allowed to constantly do what they were doing, they were able to do what they were doing before, which is pollute the environment with these greenhouse gases, and then just more industries are being built up which continue to pollute the environment. And then another quote from a different source, it says, the empirical evidence presented here, however, suggests that the incentives created by the scheme work very differently, awarding profiteers to polluters and encouraging continued investment in fossil fuel-based technologies while disadvantaging industry focused on transition away from fossil fuels. Now, in essence, what this says is that basically it's discouraging investment in new technologies, because it's placing all the resources and stakes into these offset projects. So it's just discouraging it entirely. And for that reason, it doesn't actually amount to like a greener future. Now, he made the comparison of cap and trade to the sulfur dioxide program, the Clean Air Act of 1990 in the United States. And my counterclaim to that is it's not a relevant comparison, because the sulfur dioxide program in the 1990s was aimed at reducing a physical, tangible problem, and presented economic benefits that were actually there. There were billions of dollars in losses for the sulfur dioxide program that needed to be made up for. And the difference between that and this is, even though it is a cap and trade program, the sulfur dioxide program didn't actually, even though there was a cap and trade program for it, it aimed at resolving a problem that was like tangible. This one wasn't. And also the sulfur dioxide program didn't use offsets, so it didn't undermine itself with that concept. Okay, so then in response to his idea that capitalism will not go towards a greener environment, capitalism will go to a greener environment when it's economically sound. My response to his claim is that the cap and trade system will cripple the United States economy, because it will outsource jobs, because essentially it's going to outsource jobs because go blank, hang on. Okay. Because when you put the caps on these companies, they're forced to put their investments in other places, and they can't invest in their own companies. So China and India, the biggest producers of the world, have said that they're essentially not going to reduce their economic efficiency at the benefit to the environment. So as long as other places remain available, then according to Keynesian theory, they're gonna export their factories, ship them overseas because it's going to be more economically sound. And we have seen, and also in response to that claim, is we have seen that green technology eventually does come around when it's the most profitable, when it's the most sound. For example, windmills, nuclear power, they're all becoming more used. The hybrid cars, electric cars are resurfacing in 2010. Hybrid cars are the most popular sold cars in the U.S. at this time, according to their statistic, or at least the most popular sold Toyota cars. That basically shows that instead of crippling the economy, as long as we keep with the current system and let technology do its own development and not force it, or at least try to force it and in effect cripple our own system, we will eventually get the greener jobs and greener technology that we need. Okay, now that answers his claims.